Hello everybody, welcome to another live stream. It's me, Maya TC, your favorite British political YouTuber. Don't you dare. I can see some people are typing and saying, oh no, this other channel is my favorite, that other channel is my... No. Yes, we believe in democracy, but on this channel, we don't. It's all authoritarian. You all belong to the system. You all belong to the Maya TC world order. This is much better than the new world order. We are here to show my outrage. We're going to be talking about these clowns. Are they respectable clowns, right? Because we have to be nice. Yeah, sure. No. And House of Lords have caused some trouble today. Voted down the election bill. Essentially slowed it down because they can't fully reject it, but they did the same thing with the Brexit bill. You remember those years? It took decades to leave the European Union. It's the same shambles all over again because they want to pretend that they are on the side of the everyday people, the majority. What do they call them? Theresa May used to call them jams, just about managing, but not really. They don't care about that because the whole thing is dominated by a bunch of lefties. And whether it's the Liberal Democrat lords or the Labour lords and all these guys, what they want to do is they want to make sure that they keep their own voters happy. That's all it is. So the vote was 199 to 170. Still close. But the idea is that they say voter ID for elections is literally the devil. It's worse than Putin at this point. It's just so bad that people are going to lose their lives. I'm going to come to the live chat, by the way. Leave your comments there. I'm actually going to do a quiz. You ready? So let's come up. Let's see if anybody will come up with some sort of good answer. Any other area in life in this country that is more restrictive to do, as in you have to have a photo ID than to vote. I'm going to give 2 or 3 examples at the beginning so that you guys don't cheat. For example, if you want to go to the post office and pick up your parcel, it's harder to do that than to vote because you have to show your ID. The second one, if you have one of these delivery apps, especially if you're in cities like Deliveroo or Uber Eats, if you want to order alcohol, it's harder to do that because you still need to show your ID than to actually vote. And thirdly, this is more local for me. There's a Wetherspoon in central London, Leicester Square, near where I live, and that Fridays and Saturdays, late night, it turns into like a club bar. So you actually have to have a photo ID to go into a Wetherspoon in London, and it's harder to do that basically than to vote. So give me your answers. What else do you think exists in this country that's actually harder to do than to vote? And it's really weird because the idea is not necessarily to clamp down on some sort of mass fraud. It's not really about that. It's the basic principle of democracy. We want to bring in the UK's electoral system into the 21st century, like the rest of the world. And but it does actually affect certain seats, marginal seats. You have a number of places where the vote change is so small, the margin, that a couple of dozens of votes changing will actually change the whole of the House of Commons outlook. And this is why it matters, because even if you going out there and do fake votes, it will actually affect the whole of the government in this country. Now, they have released a list. The House of Lords, basically, their argument is that they want to be able to introduce any sort of document without a photo, and that should count as an ID. Look at this list. So, for example, you could use a library card. That's what they want. There's a worse one. There's a trade union membership card. You do realize what that would do? There will be a lot of trade unions who are pro-Labour who would just basically create fake membership cards for their members who don't have an ID card. And you could just use that to pass. And you're going to use a National Rail card, but that's usually that has a photo on it. A Young Scot National Entitlement card. I love how that exists still. But yeah, that's still happening. An adoption certificate. That should not be a thing. I don't understand why you're going to... Or P45, P60... You can easily forge these documents. You could literally have any of these. Look at this list. You could create fake ones. Apart from the top ones, like driver's license and things like this. I mean, you can still do that, but it's a bit hard work. This is my problem. The people who are kicking off saying the House of Lords are our saviors. Yeah, sure. Very, very democratic House of Lords. You do realize that the government, with this bill, they're also introducing, and it already exists, but they will actually provide it even better. If you don't have a passport, if you don't have a driver's license for some reason, then they will actually give you a free on taxpayer, a photo ID card. So you could use that. Simple. How hard is it? We just want to modernize our system so that we don't really be made fun of by the European Union with their fake parliament. Let's see what's going on in the live chat. I'm going to see if anybody's come up with any good answer. Whoever wins might get a good prize. Let me just see. Might. I just say. Okay, so yeah. We got Black and Blanco 101 saying you need an ID to go clubbing. Yes, it's similar to my Weatherspoon comment back. Yeah, it counts. It counts. That's an actual club. Buying an energy drink after shaving. Robert Hitchman. I love that. Let anyone take your kids' exams for them. That's just basically how it works at this point. So there is I'm gonna hang on. Let me just try something here first. Do we have any other answer? Because I'm gonna introduce someone to the live chat in a second. Stay here with me. There's some good comments about me. Thank you so much. I'm not going to be completely egotistical tonight to read that. But yeah, they say they love my hair, so that's good. Okay, so we have our special guest. Ready? Hang on. We're going to have, let's go on the other window and introduce you to, there he is. Yeah, we go. Peter Barnes, the political editor of the channel, has joined us. How are you, Peter?
Hi, mate. How you doing? It's good to be here. How you doing?
Very good, very good. Thanks for joining. I'm just basically having an outrageous night. So just shouting in front of the camera about the House of Lords. My problem, and I want to get your opinion on this, is specifically the issue of they say there will be some people, and of course there will be some people without driver's license or any sort of passport. But the government have already said that they will be providing people with free ID cards anyway. And do you think this is basically, I don't think it's like the Labour Party or Lib Dems in the House of Lords are doing it for any political reason in terms of, they want to cheat or whatever. I think, is it just to basically, essentially, piss off the right-wingers?
Essentially, that's you're 100% correct. Like you said, the government have already announced that they're going to give IDs to people, who can't have one. But my biggest question is, realistically, who doesn't have an ID? Well, I've never really understood this argument. To access
apparently it happens.
If any, to get access to any kind of level of state benefit, to even register for a bank account, which you need to get for universal credit and all the rest of it, you need some form of ID. And why? And what is probably one of the most important things you could do as a citizen of a country is vote. You could just turn up, say your name, come up with an address, and you could just pretend to be anybody. And everyone just A-okay with that. It's made no sense to me for a long time. When it comes to the Lords kind of playing games with this, what it is they want to make out that they are the protectors of democracy. That, it's the evil Tories, coming out, they want to rig the votes. They want to take your vote away. It's that idea that the government is working against you. That's the narrative that they're pushing. But honestly, comes as absolutely no surprise to me that this has happened. Well, if you look at the makeup of the House of Lords, it is dominated mainly by the Liberal Democrats and by the Labour Party, who have pushed endlessly against this topic, despite the fact at one point, I'm pretty sure I remember the Lib Dems being in favour of ID cards, and the Labour Party being in favour of ID cards. And I remember, it wasn't that a Tony Blair policy not so long ago.
I know.
It's funny how they always forget everything when this comes to playing politics and having a go at the Tories.
It's interesting. We're also playing a quick quiz. Some people are giving their answers. Is what areas in life in this country is actually more restrictive to do than actual vote? I came up with a couple of them. One of them was picking up your parcel at the post office. And second one was if you have a delivery app like Deliveroo or Uber Eats, if you order drinks, you have to show your ID to get your drinks.
That's true, yeah.
So do you have anything?
Oh, God, now you put me on the spot. I generally can't think of any.
Well, I got a very good one. You ready? Well, basically, which is quite ironic. If you want to vote in internal Labour Party elections or trade unions, you need to have an ID card.
Because the reason they introduced that rule was because they were getting so many people turn up to the meetings who were like kind of momentum activists but weren't members of the Labour Party. And there's a way to try and get rid of momentum. They're trying to stop the insurgency. That's why that was introduced. But the hypocrisy that runs throughout this debate is staggering to me. It is genuinely staggering. But again, it just doesn't surprise me given the people that you see coming out against ID cards. I saw our illustrious Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, was saying the bill should now be repealed because the House of Lords voted it down, completely forgetting that the democratically elected members of Parliament in the House of Commons passed it with a huge majority, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
We're just going to ignore that bit, and we're just going to bang on about the bit that suits my politics.
Yeah.
It's just a bit pathetic more than anything, and again, it's just so many just bad people making bad faith arguments, and that's what annoys me the most. Is that this argument is made in bad faith?
I know. It is one of those big problems, but that firstly, in the live chat, if you want to check it out, there are some comments about your hair being quite...
No, God, sorry.
Sorry. While you go have a look at those comments, and I'm going to give you, because we're speaking about democracy, I have some good news, so we're not going to be completely angry tonight. Let's go back to the main news, which comes from Germany. The German parliament actually decided to vote down the mandatory jabs. The health mandates that were coming from the German government, the executive, even in Germany, the parliament have decided to not completely surrender to the executive and be like, okay, let's actually scrutinize this bill, especially for the elderly as well, to make sure that it's not discriminatory. But they have actually done this. So not all parliaments are letting us down tonight. So that's actually not too bad.
It's rather ironic that we're relying on the German parliament not to let us down.
Oh God, that's
we
sad.
really do live through the looking glass, don't we?
It is quite sad. It is quite sad. Let's just see if there are any comments. Guys, do you have any questions before we go? Because it's going to be a quick live stream. I know you guys all have plans. It's Thursday night. I'm guessing someone has plans.
Just because we don't have plans, Miles.
No. Robin Hunter says we do owe billions of pounds to the EU. They are all in on it. Tony Richardson says if they had voter ID, Sadiq Khan wouldn't have been elected.
Well, there is some argument.
I mean, look at Tower Hamlets.
There is some. Yeah, I'm going to say we want to talk about voter fraud. Tower Hamlets in London. I'm pretty sure every local election, every general election, there is a story that comes out about voter fraud in Tower Hamlets.
It makes me wonder, because I do believe that there are some seats in areas where there's tribal. You could have a Labour council or MP for decades, and the people still vote for them by default. But there are some areas that people like. I was a local candidate. You've been involved with local elections as well.
Yeah.
You go around, you talk to them. They're outraged, and then yet somehow Labour still wins. So I'm guessing it's those elections where it's a bit iffy. It's well, you won by 20 votes. How did that happen?
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things where, like you said earlier, I don't think anybody's doing this to deliberately cheat. But if you really want to look at voter election fraud, look at local elections. Yep. I mean, you were relying on a lot of people to kind of count all the votes and everything. And I mean, it's not difficult to kind of fudge some of this stuff. I've been to many counts up and down the country, and yeah, I mean, they're not the most secure things I've ever witnessed. I know. But I actually I'll always say, though, I still prefer the idea of us actually putting a cross in a box rather than, pressing a computer screen thing or, there is something a little bit more,
more
kind of firm, like bricks and mortar kind of stability to us actually doing the old-fashioned vote. I have to admit, I don't postal vote either. I actually like going down to the polling station.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because I'm a complete nerd and I've got nothing else to do on a Thursday on election day, but I do actually quite like going down and going to the polling station.
There is in the comment section. There's one final point to make and to address. I don't know if Peter has actually seen this earlier. Probably you're a bit of a nerd. Michael says, "What is going on with Unite the Union?" So earlier on, there was a breaking news that the police raided the Unite the Union HQ, and apparently it was apparently at least one person who was being accused of something dodgy, and they left a lot of documents, right?
Yeah. So from what I know, this is a really good and interesting one that we'll probably have to get into in a different show, but the police came in and raided the Unite Union offices, and they were looking for one particular person, and apparently they've raided this guy's home as well. So they've really targeted and gone after him. So he must have done something very specific. It's very light on details at the moment. I'm probably expecting a little bit more to come out maybe tomorrow or the day after.
Yeah, I think that's why I wondered, because the mainstream media are not really talking about it yet, because I'm guessing there's so much legality involved that they're scared to talk about.
Because it's an ongoing investigation. There are certain rules about what the media can and can't talk about.
Well, we don't have those rules. We could do whatever we want.
Well, they've not introduced those rules just yet for new media, but I don't worry, they'll be coming for us. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah, we are the media, but we don't want any of the rules. That's what we are. A couple of comments, but let's just read them before we go. Costa says, "You will own nothing but be happy." You voted for that, but basically that's what it's going now. We have the Lion of Judah saying, "We support the Queen. Keep the Lords." So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of discussion in the live chat actually about, because people are angry, and some people say because of the anger, and there's like different kind of angles, either abolish it or reform it or turn it to a Senate. There's so many like different options, and I think why not just go back to basics when the Constitution was working, make it like kind of simplified, and the way it was just to scrutinize, and not make it political appointees like dominating it. And that could work, including first past the worst, which is flawed. It could work if we actually practice it the right way, right?
Yeah, 100%. So anybody who's ever had to study politics will know about the trauma that is the Tony Blair reform to the House of Lords, the tinkering around the edges with it and making a complete mess of it. It is really irritating if you've ever had to look into this stuff. But the one thing I'm always surprised at is how Boris and the Conservatives, really, when they came to power in 2019, didn't attempt to do anything with the Lords, considering how badly behaved they were over the Brexit stuff. You know, they basically stopped any kind of Brexit legislation going through. They'd do it deliberately, you know, confrontational. Do you remember that moment where Theresa May was calling in the likes of Andrew Lloyd Webber, you know, to actually go and vote in the House of Lords? You know, I'm really surprised, because I think you could have at that moment said, look, this is how badly you behaved. You stood in the way of 17.4 million people. There was a way you could spin it to at least, you know, stop them. 49 for anyone who's interested, but you know, it kind of limits what they're able to do. But realistically, what the problem is now, the government, the House of Lords, sorry, can basically withhold the passing of legislation for it's about a year, and a year in politics that changes everything.
That's the thing. I mean, it might not be a complete rejection, but if you slow down and block it seems like. I mean, we saw it with Brexit bill anyway, and I think this is the kind of the key issue, and I think we're going to be getting more backlash.
Yeah, we're also going to see this exact same thing happen with the Borders bill, which is also being held up in the House of Lords as well. We're going to see this happen again and again, and if the government's smart, they can say it's Labour playing politics by the back door.
Yes.
Which is essentially what it is. You know, they've no power in the House of Commons because of the large Conservative majority. So then they're going to try and hold everything up and delay and make the government look incompetent, when in reality, their hands are tied by the legislative process.
Yes.
It's a very dirty trick, but to be fair, it's a very smart trick as well.
Absolutely. There's more to discuss, especially over the next, to be fair, tomorrow's Friday, but especially next week, we're going to see more reaction from Westminster on this issue. But the live chat, but guys, after this, I'm going to go back and read your answers about the quiz that we did, and pick a couple of the best ones, and I'll do a shout out in the next live stream for you guys there. And I think we're going to come up with some prizes going forward as well. I like this random quiz thing. And also, if you guys enjoyed Peter joining us midway through to kind of just talk about all the things that I usually want to shout about, but he does it in a more sensible way. Leave in a live chat if you have good feedback. If you don't want to see his face, then let me know as well.
Wow. I don't know. I'm a very fragile person, you know.
To be fair, you just came from...
My hair will be better for next time, I promise.
I know, exactly. But thanks again, guys. Thank you so much, Peter, for joining. And we're going to come back tomorrow with more news updates for you guys. So definitely, if you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you're new or not new, subscribe, but also click on the bell next to it. That's the best way to get notified when we release new videos. I'm MyTC, and I will see you guys in the next video. Why? Because we are the media.